Thomas, 608 10th Avenue. I raised the question with you, Mr. Mayor, about the legality of this. Pardon my voice. Legality of this, and got a response from Mr. DuPont citing the Slocum versus Belmar, particularly item number 30 on that list. And I do happen to have that, I had previously reviewed it. That particular item calls for pavilion improvements. Didn't say anything about reconstruction, just pavilion improvements. I don't know whether that's a fine line that you want to argue or not. But subsequent to that in 1990, in, let's see, this is Smith versus the Borough of Belmar. Are you familiar with that case? One of the items under expenses talked about I guess the best thing to do is to read it. It's talking about revenues, but they do draw the distinction that as far as expenses go, most important, that many of the borough's expenses allocated encompass time periods which are outside the 87 days of traditional summer season. And I'm just wondering whether you think that might be a pitfall.
You know what, we've looked at these cases. I still think I uphold the decision that Belmar may use the funds from the beach utility for the construction of pavilions. There are exceptions to every law, and as Mr. Bean is worried about, sure, arguments can be made, but it's clear that the pavilions, based on the Slocum case, can be rebuilt with beach utility funds. And you're correct, the language does say improvement. So what's the degree of improvement? That might be subject to interpretation. But it's my interpretation that the improvements mean construction.
Okay. What about the 87-day summer period for use of that building and as far as allocating the expenses?
It doesn't change my decision. I still think that the beach utility fund is able to be used for the construction of the improvements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Forte.
Robert Forte, 114 Avenue, Belmar. You're asking for a bond to pass a bond issue, what, 7.125, and authorizing $7.5 million. But you haven't gotten any bids yet. So my question is, how did you arrive at that figure?
We have our estimates developed by our engineers. They have to be very careful because we talk about building a building, but you can't give out all the plans and specs to potential contractors because then they have a competitive advantage over other people. So what they do is they go out and say, look, here's what we're looking to build, here's the time frames, here's the materials, here's, give us an estimate on these costs. And they get estimates from different companies that they work with on projects, both in Belmar and outside of Belmar. And then they add a little bit of a bump to it. So, like with a boardwalk, remember the boardwalk estimated cost was $17 million. The whole thing was done at 10. So, in theory, could we say it's going to be 7.5 and it comes back at 10 million? Well, yeah, then we don't build it, but that could happen. More than likely, the way we asked our engineers to put this together was estimate high, so when bids come in, they come in lower than what we're estimating. And we would only, so the authorization tonight for the bond is for the full amount, but just like the boardwalk, let's say the whole thing comes back and it's $6 million. Well, then we don't need to spend that $6 million. We wouldn't spend the full 7.125 or bond for 7.125. You just use the $6 million.
What do you do with the other monies that you've already bonded out?
You don't. That's the point. You never bond for it. So this is just authorization to
Up
buy
to.
the bond.
Okay.
Up to.
Now, what
It
do
would
you,
be, and also just DCA, Department of Community Affairs, checks all this to ensure that it's only used for the proper purposes.
okay. Second question is, what is your plan for the other two pavilions? Do you intend to rebuild those in the future?
We've been focusing, we have a lot of projects going on right now, to be honest with you. But, I really think that's an interesting idea as far as possibly doing something somewhere else in town and using, generating additional federal dollars. That's something definitely worth exploring. So, it puts those buildings in limbo whether or not they get.
So there's no plan at this point to build the 8th Avenue Pavilion and the 13th Avenue?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay.
It hasn't been ruled out, but there's no plan for it. But again, there's
If you
alternatives.
rebuild, if you say go for the 8th Avenue Pavilion, would you use the same plan as submitted before?
Well, I think the issue would be the financing. You know, how much, you know, we don't want to overtax the beach utility, so.
But my question is the size of the building. Would you use that same plan, the building on 8th Avenue?
No.
Okay, it would be something else.
Yeah, it
So
would be
we're
scaled
about
down,
to-
but it would be scaled down, one, because the feedback we received, but also, you know, the smaller the building, the lower the cost, so, you
Yeah,
know,
I-
if we did, but, you know, I think as a governing body, and the feedback that I hear from residents is how important both Taylor and Tenth Ave are. Not that the other ones aren't important, but when it comes to the character of the town, those two seem to really be prominent. So those are the ones that we're pushing to get done as soon as possible. The other two, you know, I don't know if they'll be rebuilt.
Perfect example is after the 92 storm, the 19th Avenue Pavilion was never rebuilt.
Okay, so at this point, you don't know, but, you know, if you decide to rebuild the 8th or the 13th, I would like to volunteer to be on the design committee, because I live on 8th Avenue, just to have a little input. So I'm just gonna lay that out to you.
Thank you.
If you don't build it, you don't build it. If you do, I'd
Well,
like
if you
to-
want, you could, you know, possibly be interested in working on if there's, what's it called again?
Alternate project.
Alternate project, we're interested in being involved in that.
Sure.
You know,
Okay.
you have the time, you'd love to have that
Yep.
as well.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
You'll be at San Gennaro this weekend?
Of course.
Mr. Pyro.
Good evening, Peter Pyro, 300 North Boulevard in Belmar. We're finding $7.5 million for 2 pavilions. If the FEMA people and the federal government don't give us the money for the steel sheeting and the dunes along the ocean that would protect all of the municipality, will the municipality fund that steel sheeting?
Well, you know, right now, we are getting beach replenishment, which, again, it's been done in the past, and it seems to last for a while, but not a whole long while. Again, based on the logic of what happened in Antelope, we should be in a pretty decent position for that money, for what we're looking to do in Belmar. I think it's important to do. It would come down to how you finance it, and I don't know. If we don't receive any federal dollars, and the only federal assistance we get is the beach replenishment, not to discount that, it's significant, but again, over time, it's gonna, I don't wanna say erode, but it just moves.
The ocean takes the sand back.
Right, whereas a steel bulkhead doesn't. So, we're gonna pursue both. I can't give you a definitive answer.
No, I understand, and I guess you need to commit to this 7.5, but Avon and Bradley Beach have a little better barrier, and that seemed to have diminished the effects of Hurricane Sandy on those municipalities to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, Avalon's still got a good amount of people flying out of their homes in Avalon and still aren't back in. And Bradley has a, you know, they got like a fortress. They have a tremendous concrete steel bulkhead. You know, they had dunes, and the dunes got wiped out, and you'll see, if you go there now, you'll see all the Christmas trees lined up again. So they're gonna replenish those dunes, but really it was that, the bulkhead, it works, concrete and steel work.
Just a simple aside. In watching the travelogue, there's a place in Italy where everybody goes away for the winter. They bring bulldozers in, they push sand on the beach and make huge dunes to protect for the winter storms. So after the winter, they push the sand back again. I'm not an engineer. I've litigated enough engineering cases, but it seems like if we don't get funding for the steel barriers, that's an option that, at least throw it out there to go to a plan B if plan A doesn't work. I'm not trying to hurt it, I'm trying to make it
No, you're right.
something to make protection. Okay, thank you for your time.
Yes.
Yes, Brendan Reed, 109th Avenue. I'm here already. I won't repeat what I said at the last meeting on the ordinance, speaking in favor of the Taylor Pavilion. But I do want to express my concerns and the concern of my wife Christine about the boardwalk pavilions. And one of the most serious omissions is the lack of covered open spaces. In other words, gazebos like at Avon, Bradley Beach, and Ocean Grove. In fact, my wife Christine wrote to you with the idea of having one at the 13th Avenue Pavilion site. But she's unable to be here tonight. She's recovering from a successful skin cancer procedure and also from knee treatments, which limits how long she wants to be on her feet. So, not everyone likes or can sit in the sun or walk long distances without sitting down. So we definitely would like to see this considered. In fact, one reason it might be supporting for having a gazebo at the 13th Avenue Pavilion is there's reports that FEMA may consider it. In fact, there was an article in the August 8th CoStar which cited the FEMA Public Assistance Squad leader, Joe Cabral, as saying, any structure that would enhance the outdoor experience, such as a gazebo or boardwalk in the V zone, is typically reimbursable. So I'm hoping your deliberations that you would consider having such outdoor gazebos like at 13th Avenue for the benefit of our community. Thank you.
Okay, don't we have one sitting in DPW? We voted like a year and a half ago on it. So we actually have one.
Just, the one we have is, what's the size of it?
It's small.
I think, by the way, if you look at Avalon and you look at Spring Lake, they do have, even if they're small, they have gazebos where people get out of the sun. In Belmar, we just bake them for one million miles. So no, I agree. And I think for next summer, and gazebos, I mean, they're not that expensive. So, that may be something, maybe, oh shit, but maybe what we do is we do an alternate project, right? And then for 13, maybe we do it.
Considering that FEMA has publicly said that, that's the kind of structure that they would be amenable for funding, and that tells me, okay, hey, if they tell you this is where the money is, folks, let's take a look at it, because that's something we definitely do need here in our boardwalk. Otherwise, we love it here, and we enjoy taking part in the communities, and we look forward to seeing such improvements, and as well as the new Taylor Pavilion coming next year, as well as the new public safety building as well.
Give your best, Eric.
Thank you.
Yes, Bob.
Yep, I'm Bob Lynch, 316 9th Avenue. There was, was interested to hear about the lakefront, the lake, or the pathway around the lake. Looks like it's all completed, looks good. I've been on it, walking, and I know that they did some seeding around the lake too, but I thought the seeding, it didn't do anything. It doesn't seem like there's any grass, or hardly any grass growing. And I was interested to see they were questioning about payment tonight to Down to Earth Landscaping. And I wondered if that was something that, are they expected to come back and do some more seeding? Or?
Yes, and they are remobilizing now to finish their planting and their soil stabilization, which is the grass.
Okay. Were there any other, like, trees or anything they're going to be planting, or bushes?
There are plantings. I have to look at my list to see exactly what it is. But
Is
they're
it-
back on the ground now.
Yes, there's a number of dead trees too around the lake.
Yeah,
Okay.
those will be addressed.
Okay. And then on the new restaurant at the marina, they mentioned that there would be space for a potential bait shop, I guess, and then for the marina office. So would we get that space free, the marina office?
Yes.
Okay. And then the bait shop, who would get the revenue from the bait shop?
Well, in the agreement, Chefs International would build and own and operate the buildings, and then they would sublease that to somebody. So they would garner that revenue.
Okay.
So whatever rent is they rent is, whether it's leased or not, they still owe us the $235,000 a year, whether they rent that or not. So
Okay.
but that revenue goes to them.
So that,
And they manage the leasing.
yeah, so that, I mean, that would be an offset to their cost. I mean, if part of building the building, and that would be an offset to their cost of whatever lease they're giving us, the money they're giving us.
Right, right.
And, you know, on the seasonal Pure Bar that we have a lease with them now for that. And I thought it was like 90,000 or 110,000 or,
Original lease agreement, the original lease was $80,000 a year. 85 probably, and then another 15 for golf course.
okay. And that's just saying, now we're kind of bundling, it sounds like we're bundling it, or is it going to be a separate agreement?
It's
Bundle it all together.
It's going to be bundled
It was
together?
always intended to be one project, but it just worked that it went phase one and phase two, which I think worked out well for us, so we could see how it operates, make sure that we are comfortable with a much larger project. And let's say they weren't going to operate. Let's say we had problems down there. Let's say our police were called all the time. Let's say it was a nuisance. Well, then we wouldn't want to move forward.
Right.
In fact, if they've been outstanding tenants, particularly paying us on time, I hope, it makes sense to move forward and complete that entire project.
But to me, it sounds like it's a little bit, so the additional would be $135,000 a year for the 12-month restaurant.
Right, numbers I have, the golf course is, after we modify this, golf course is 15,000, Ninth Avenue Pier will be 95,000, and the main building will be 125.
Okay. It just seemed like for a seasonal, it was 95,000, and for a year-round, it's 135,000. Looked like, I understand that they're paying so much more for the building, but it seemed like we could have done maybe a little better on the, if you just took the seasonal license and multiplied it up for a 12-month license,
Well, you gotta look at it, the seasonal license though is based off, remember, they're paying for it, so it's their capital. So if you think of how much money they invested for the pier, it's not an insignificant number, but it's certainly not significant.
No, it's not near what they're paying for the building, yeah.
They gotta borrow for that, they're gonna have debt service on that, and as busy as, and any business will tell you in this town or adjacent towns, as busy as in the summer is as slow as it gets in the winter, so, I'll tell you, and we did go back and forth, the best we could do was $235,000 a year, but I still think that's and if you ask the towns around us, that's a phenomenal number.
Yeah, I know, it's significant because we're not having to build either Pure Bar, or we're not having to build the new facility, and we're gonna get a new facility, we're gonna get a marina office.
And then
as a
remember, the
result of it.
building, there's a 24-year lease. If at the end of that lease, things don't renew, that building's for a Belmar.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Chefs is doing a good job, and they want to stay. Who knows? You never know what's going to happen. So, but the nice thing for us is, you're going to get a $6 million building that, during the course of that 24 years, they're obligated to maintain as well.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Can I just clarify something? Are these questions and comments right now supposed to be related to ordinance 15,
No.
things like this should be waiting to the end? Just so, because I am just waiting, I just.
Yeah, you're right.
Just in case it doesn't
Right,
continue to
sorry
happen,
about
so I'm
that,
waiting.
you're totally right. So anyone else have any comments, questions, just on the ordinance? Yes, ma'am.
Karen Grau, 116 14th Avenue, and we're hearing a lot of different discussion about the pavilions, the pros and the cons, but my concern is why are we doing the pavilions before we have the beach replenished and the dunes installed? We've heard about climate change, infrastructure, our water tables higher, and I'm really fearful that another storm will impact us even greater than previous storms have, and that the pavilions should be the last thing we do after the beach is replenished and the dunes installed, and shouldn't we be floating a bond for the permanent dunes first and then the pavilion?
Well, as we mentioned before, it's a great question. The beach replenishment is going to commence and will hopefully be done by December of this year. Spring.
Spring, April.
That's what it says. For the beach replenishment. This is just getting built in conjunction with that. At the same time, we are pursuing with FEMA the money for the dunes. Now, if we went out and bonded for the dune project before FEMA approved it, and then they approved it 2 months later, they will not reimburse us a dime because it's not considered rehab or reconstruction, it's considered hazard mitigation. So if we did that, we completely throw out the door any opportunity of getting federal funding. Based on what happened in Manilokin, much like based on what happened in Avalon, we think we're in a pretty good position. Now, not everything is logical with the federal government, but logically speaking, just as we get rejected from Avalon, we should be approved because of what happened in Manilokin. So, you know, it's not as if one, they're all priority, but we can move forward on the pavilions as we pursue grant money through either reconstruction or repair. It's not considered hazard mitigation. The other one is considered hazard mitigation, completely different bucket to FEMA, so we can't move forward on it just.
So that would be different than getting reimbursed for the pavilions? Is that what you're saying?
Right. Just like the boardwalk, we moved forward well before we knew FEMA was going to do 90%. We thought they would do 75, and we budgeted for that. But we were able to move forward because that's replacement, not hazard mitigation.
I still feel that if we're going to float a bond, though, we should do it for the hazard and do it for the permanent dune first, in case we have to have two separate bonds. You know, in the event that the pavilions wouldn't be reimbursed and the dunes wouldn't be reimbursed, then we'd have two bonds that we'd have to float, and that's what I'm worried about. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Joy, second time.
Joy DeSanctis, 101 6th Avenue. I'd like to clear up the height of the Taylor Pavilion. You've put out mailers that it's 37 feet tall. I have from the architect that the height from the finished floor to the cupola peak is 48.9 inches. And down at the bottom, he add 5 feet to each dimension to determine the height above the boardwalk. So that actually puts the height at 53.9 inches.
Feet.
53 feet, 9 inches.
I think you may have old information from the architect. For instance, there is no cupola on the Taylor Pavilion.
There isn't?
Two bell domes.
You can see it in the mailing I sent out. You can see this one.
All right, the cupola wasn't my word, but I'll use your word if it's a bell tower. At any rate, it's 53 feet, 9 inches. It's not 37 feet. It's clearly 53 feet, 9 inches. I just want to clear that up because you keep putting out there it's only 37 feet, and that's inaccurate.
It is 37 feet. So, I think you have, and there was a cupola at one time that was removed. So I think your measures on the cupola. What I was saying was what the architect said from what the height of it would be 14 feet 7 inches taller than the previous building. So just doing the math on it, it came out to 37.
Yeah, but you would have to know what the other building was, and we don't really all retain how tall the Taylor Pavilion was, but we do know what this building is because it's documented by the architect and it's right here, and if I have the wrong information, it's only because you've given me the wrong information.
I believe the 37 feet is from the boardwalk, and the 53.
No, it's not from the
sand.
boardwalk.
I'll reconfirm it.
It's from the finished floor to the ridge of the main roof. And then if you add the 5 feet, that's 42 feet, 7 inches. But if it's from the finished floor to the cupola, and I'm repeating what the architect wrote, it is 48 feet, 9 inches, plus the 5 feet dimension to determine the height above the boardwalk, which makes it 53 feet, 9 inches, which is the number that we've been passing out. And I don't want to belabor that.
Right, but just understand, there's no cupola.
Well, then you shouldn't send out literature in response to an Oprah response that says cupola. I'll be happy to call it a bell tower or a dome or whatever you want to call it.
This has been a fluid process, so there have been changes to the building. There was a cupola at one time, there is no longer a cupola.
All right.
The street of the cupola. So when you say that there's a cupola there, I'm telling you that there's not. There was, you're just talking about something that may have been there a few months ago.
July 18th is mine is dated July 18th. So you're telling me from July 18th to present time, it's been changed from a cupola to a bell tower. It doesn't matter.
It hasn't been changed from a cupola to a bell tower. I'm telling you, the cupola is no longer there. Nothing was changed from one thing to another. It was in the original plans, and then it was removed.
Okay. So how high is the bell tower from the boardwalk?
There are the curved, there's not a bell tower. The highest point are the 2 curved roof sections. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go with the roof section. And how high is
I
that?
say it's 42.
37 feet.
No, that is not 37 feet. That's from the ridge
Oh,
of
the
the
ridge, I'm
main.
sorry, the ridge.
I say 42 and a
Now,
half.
you could call it a ridge, or you could call it the top of the roof, but, okay. So the curved part is how tall?
I don't know.
Okay, but it could be 53 feet. Okay. All right, I don't know because I don't have the accurate information, because when I asked for it, this is the information I received. I was just like before, I use up all my time.
10 seconds.
Oh, God, it goes so quickly. I have to come back. You said we're on target to receive $20 million. I'd like you to explain where that target, $20 million, is coming from. Just do a brief
I
review.
will do that for you. That's your 5 minutes, but I will answer that question for you.
And just one quick other little question. You explained in detail how we didn't pay anything for the boardwalk. You started out with a $10,734,000 figure. You subtracted the FEMA figure of about $9,661,000. Our buy a board campaign, net remaining cost. But what you neglected to mention was we borrowed a $20 million bond. What happened to the other $10 million? You didn't explain that. Where's that?
No, so I'm going to answer both questions. I'll take the second one first.
Okay.
The 20 million incorporated, pumping the water out, paying for debris removal, and also the boardwalk. So,
Look,
the FEMA reimburses in different sections. So there was one project worksheet for debris, one project worksheet for water removal, one project worksheet for the boardwalk. So what I wanted to do was tell people, so not to confuse them, just what the cost of the boardwalk was, what our reimbursement was, how it cost $0 tax dollars, as we said it was going to cost $0 tax dollars, and it did. Now, the other money,
the other 10 million?
We're still working on getting back, but that's spread out over a few different projects.
The vast majority of that
is that the $20 million we're on target for?
It's gonna probably end up being more than that, to be honest with you. I'm all said and done. But I can get you, we can email you that, the rest of it. Only thing I have in front of me right now is the board.
Sure.
But it's so
What was your
confusing.
first question? You had another question.
I'm just asking what the 20 million FEMA reimbursement we're on target for represents. You said it in your flyer, I think you need to explain it.
Well, I'm explaining. Part of it was the boardwalk.
The $10 million left over from the $20 million bond.
Part of it was debris removal. Part of it was pumping the town dry. And
Emergency measures.
emergency measures. Part of it included the cars for our police department, for DPW. Actually, it's a whole host of things. But we'll gladly, I think don't we have our project, or didn't we put up what our expenses are? Yeah, so you can see what the expenses are. And then, FEMA money comes in, it comes in large buckets, like $9 million, and then it comes in drips and drabs, like, 300,000, 400,000. Colleen has to go online and pull the money down and draw it down. So it comes in over time, but we're on target for the $20 million.
But nothing of that will be offset for the pavilions.
Right now, well, we haven't,
No, it's totally different. But thank you very much.
Hey, Joy, I did some own research. I wanted to see where that other 10 million went. That's a lie that the police cars are on there. That's not true. They were on the 1.8 million on the municipals on our side. But
actually, I'm sorry, company, but there is some vehicle accountants on the,
there is, because when I asked you earlier about the police vehicles, you didn't say any on that one.
I think if I said I didn't want to misspeak because of all the different financing vehicles available, which is why I wanted to check on that.
Well, it's very hard to make informed decisions when we don't really know what to get back to. But some of the other things that were on that are the bathrooms, the playgrounds, the benches, the rental of all the trailers that are on the boardwalk. There's still $1 million in Birdsall bills that is still sitting in there that we still didn't pay. And just trying to get all this on the table. So I think there is 10 million in debt. I don't really know how much we're going to get back for how much actually went on the project worksheets, as Colleen said. But those are what we spent that other 10 million on.
Thank you, Joy.
I know my time is up, but I'm just going to raise my hand and come back, so maybe I could just sneak in one other quick question. Yes or no?
Any other questions, comments on this ordinance? We're going to have a public session after this. I'll see him now. I'll make a motion to close the public portion on this ordinance. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
I got the flyers the mayor sent out. They're not a lie. They're not 100% telling you the whole story. I mean, the 10 million that we took out 20 million. We got 10 million back from the boardwalk. I think that's awesome. How much we're going to get back of that 10 million, I don't know. But notice it wasn't mentioned. Why can't we put all the cards on the table? Our lawyer is so gung-ho for this project. I'm surprised he's not voting. Anytime any criticism of this from a legal point of view is when people don't and ask questions, and then, well, maybe that can happen, maybe that can happen. Well, I want all the facts on the table so I can make an informed decision. I want the Taylor Pavilion built. I really do. But if it's such a great idea, and everybody's going to vote for it. You know what? I want the people to decide that that's what they'll fill the paperwork for. If it's such a great idea, let's put it on the ballot. It's going to win with a huge majority, and it's going to be settled and done. This whole vilifying of people, I can't stand it. I'm voting down. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yes, I'll make offer move for adoption, ordinance 2015-2.
Give a second. Second. Councilman Baker?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
Yes.
Councilman
You
Dean?
got me all worked up. No.
Yes.
I want to apologize first for not doing a better job informing the public. One of the things I think we did really well during and after Sandy was our communication, expressing, explaining what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it. That fell off spring and in the summer. And I'm to blame for that. You know, I guess I just got a little burnt out on it. So now we're playing catch up. And you know, we did send out 3 mailers. They're 100% accurate. I should have done that back in June, July. You know, this is a great town, great small town. Problem is, in small towns, rumors can fly faster than wild animals. And, you know, so I that's what we can't do. So I apologize for that. I truly believe that if you think we did a good job on the boardwalk, you're gonna love the pavilions. This is an important first step. You know, I understand people believe that there should be a vote on this because of how important it is. I would tell you this is no more important than the boardwalk, which was a much more expensive project to begin with. Imagine if we put the boardwalk on for a vote. Even if you say, well, everyone's going to vote for it anyway, but then you're going to have an election, you're going to have a campaign, and you're going to politicize rebuilding the boardwalk. You know, I think that's a mistake. I think it's times like this when elected officials need to do their job, listen to the public, come up with a plan, but at the end of the day, you know, make a decision and vote for what's right for the future of this town, and not simply fall back and say that you know, we may get sued. I mean, it's really a red herring, and just like the numerous other things we've done the last 3 years, this will show itself to be accurate as well. So I am voting yes. Next is first reading, introduction ordinance 2013-16, bond ordinance providing for the installation of a storm drain line for Silver Lake unit by the Borough of Belmar, Monmouth County of Monmouth, New Jersey, appropriating $1.86 million thereof and authorizing issuance of 1.767 bonds or notes thereof. This is just for first reading introduction, so I'll offer for first reading introduction.
Second?
Councilman Duncan?
Yes.
Councilman Butler?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
What changed, Mayor, that we're doing this? I have your quotes from the paper of, right, they're saying, well, financially speaking, it seems to make sense to get that reimbursement. He said there will be a deadline, but it will be based on rejections from places the borough is applying to. So, did we get a rejection?
We've been rejected.
Don't you think I should have known that when I asked all the FEMA questions? Isn't that a
You
FEMA
weren't
thing?
rejected from FEMA, I'm sorry for interjecting.
Well, no, I want to answer.
We pursued DEP. We're still going to pursue FEMA
We're still pursuing FEMA.
and see if it comes in, but you know, this is, yeah, I mean, we put this off for as long as we could. You'll see one of the things that we voted on and we approved, and we voted in the form of was an emergency appropriation so that we would have enough down payment for this. But we're still gonna, don't worry, just as first reading introduction, so I want to second reading and pass it. But in the next couple of weeks, we're also going to pursue community development block grant money and other resources. One of the things that's important for the commissioners to issue at the state level are these coastal lakes. There's about 25 of them, I think. You know, we had Submersive's presentation. This happens to be a lake that's 100% in Belmar, so we completely control it. And we think it's appropriate now to move forward. But if you want to vote no, you can always vote no.
No, Mayor, I'm just trying to keep you consistent without changing your stance every couple of weeks. No, I'm happy we're doing this, and because you said we gotta wait for FEMA, better than FEMA, and all of a sudden we're doing it, and I'm guessing we got rejected. So, you know, I'm glad to see you guys starting to see things, citizens, you know, you guys are seeing do what the citizens need first, and then we'll deal with the tourists when we get these issues taken care of. So I'm voting yes.
Yes. Next is public session. So anyone has a comment, question, please raise your hand, wait till you're called on, and come up forward and, yes, ma'am.
No, 5 minutes. Lane, 1229 Maplewood Road. Hoping to get two things into my 5 minutes. If I have something for the events committee, how would I get that question to them if I don't have it? Okay. I'm here tonight to get clarification in reference to the water lining of the mains that are being used as a replacement. My efforts via email and phone have not been successful. I waited about 2 weeks to see if the plan was posted, like they said at the August 7th meeting, and they were not, or I couldn't find them. The mayor and 2 council people did acknowledge them. The administrator the receipt of the email, but I have yet to receive a response. My husband called. He stopped at DPW, but there was no one there, which is understandable.
Did
Franny called and just clarified that we are getting relining on my street. But my clarification is at the August 7th, they said the plans would be posted for everyone to see. So I'm curious what the plans are, who's getting relining, who's getting new, that we said would be available to us at the last meeting.
And those will be up on Friday, and I apologize, because I had gotten a draft, our engineers have tweaked it. I have gotten the final draft this afternoon, so I'll get those up for tomorrow. So I'll have those. And
It's just,
No, so I do apologize for that back to you. We were just finalizing everything, and we didn't want to put it up until we knew.
okay.
And just again, so you understand Franny Hines' position in the borough of Belmar and order, so if I call you back, I will see you. And I always ask Franny what I should tell you, so.
Right.
Much better for me, but much better for you, to have Franny Hines go to your house than any member sitting up here.
Yeah, he made a call and just said we were relining, but I'm just curious because of the statement about areas like Rhode Island Point not being considered for relining because they are old and small. So what streets are getting it and what streets aren't and why. I'm not
Okay,
really.
You understand your street is getting relined.
Yes, is what I've been told, and I'm just trying to figure out why and what assessment is made to make those determinations. I'm better at medical research than I am at engineering research, but I tried to look up some stuff and I found this on the EPA website. It says to inform the public, and it's about current emerging water main relining technologies. And this is just a summary of the abstract of an article. And relining is considered rehabilitation. And it says rehabilitation approaches vary by pipe size. Small mains, i.e. less than 16 inches, which were like 6, are typically easier to replace, except in areas where access is difficult, which I don't think we are, and typically less consequential when they fail. So that kind of hit me hard seeing that on the EPA. Whether, I don't know how much, I'm sure Franny could explain a lot more about the process. The full article has like 6 different relining processes, and I know we were presented the one. I don't know that the bid's been out or settled, who's doing what, but it sounds like the decision's been made, and I'm just curious how we come to that, because everything that I am finding says small lines aren't conducive to this process. So.
And just so you know, the feedback and the guidelines that we are pursuing that we've been given by state and water utility companies is that water lines under 6 inches are not recommended for relining. So we are being cautious, we're being conservative, but again, that's why I held out putting that plan online until I knew exactly what streets were lined and what streets were replaced, and I'll get those right up.
Do I have any time to ask?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. The events committee, just because it came up as a topic tonight. I'm a weekend beach goer, and I'm not for against doing events that bring people to town, but I do have a concern when I go to the beach with my paid beach badge, which is now going to go up $10, that I'm told that I need to go home and come back after 10 or 11 o'clock because there is no access to the beach. Now, I know that's incorrect because last year when it happened, it was from a special officer. I went down to the next older officer, and he said, no, you just need to go down to Toad Pavilion and you can cross there and go to the beach. And I'm like, thank you. Can you please make sure the other fellows know this should be the response to people who come with badges to go to the beach. This year it happened again. I went up, they said, nope, no access to the beach. You need to come back. It was the triathlon after 10 o'clock. It's hard enough when I go up. It's hard to park. I get there at 8 a.m., trying to go. And again, went down to the next kid who was standing there, and he said, no, you can cross over here. So I would just ask that the committee better inform the staff that's blocking the streets what to tell people who have paid to go to the beach.
We can certainly do that.
Please.
It's a good training opportunity for next year.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for letting us know. SG. Can you have this telephone?
Yes.
Jean Folker, 514 13th Avenue. I have a couple things. The first one actually is on Claire's proclamation that September is Children's Cancer Research Month. There is an event on September 10th, Henry Wright's Heart, at the Parker House in Seagirt. It benefits children's brain cancer. It's, all the proceeds go to the Quincy Lee organization. She was a young girl who died very young of brain cancer. Excuse me, September 10th at the Park House. A lot of the local restaurants participate in it. It's a very good event for a very worthy cause. I happen to know Quincy Lee's parents, and they're wonderful people. And this organization has raised millions already for children's cancer research. So that being said, now I have issues on 13th Avenue. First one, I wanted to address the council and ask what the possibility would be of getting stop signs on the cross streets. We're one of the only streets in Belmar that does not have any stop signs. With the it used to be a speedway, now with the repaving, which is lovely, during the summer, when it's a one-way street, they fly down the street. It's literally a speedway, and it really is a hazard. We have children, we have pets. We used to have ducks, not so much anymore, but it really is a hazard, and just like during the winter, it's not as bad when it changes back to a two-way street, because people have to slow down because it is narrow to if there's two cars coming. During the summer, when it's one way, it really is horrible.
So you're saying stop signs going north and south?
Yeah, we have no stop signs from Ocean Avenue to Main Street, and it's one of the few streets in town that doesn't have any stop signs. We have none. There's not a single one on 13th Avenue.
There's no one on 13th from D?
Nope, there's not one from Ocean to Main.
Wait, you mean on 13th?
On 13th, right, not on the cross streets, on 13th from Ocean to Main, there are no stop signs. Yeah, trust me, there isn't.
I'm picturing it.
Yeah, there isn't. There's no stop signs. And like I said, with the repaving, they just go faster now.
Right.
So that was one consideration. There's also, I've noticed
We can
since...
tear up the road again if you want.
No, that's fine. Well, if that slows them down, I'm good with that.
We're not tearing up.
The other thing, with the water project, since the water project has happened, I think it's 506 or 504 13th Avenue in front, there's a water or something to do with the water system that has sort of got like a bubbling up coming on it. There's stagnant water that sits on the sidewalk constantly, and it bubbles up there. It's been going on for a couple months now. I guess nobody's reported it or knows about it.
I don't know what you mean, but we'll check it out, maybe we can talk afterwards.
Did I report that to you, Michael? Is that what I reported to you?
I have the full worksheet on it.
We are aware.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because it's a breeding ground for mosquitoes right there. It's horrible. Like I walk my dog and I'm getting eaten alive.
Is that 13th and D?
13th, well, it's right, yeah.
I know where it is.
Yeah, just one house in from D, across from the deli there.
Someone mentioned that to me, and I passed the information on to Michael, and he said that they were monitoring it.
I know when we looked at it, I have a full worksheet.
Yeah, it just kind of bubbles up and sits there. Oh, is that what it is?
That's what I believe for any time, again, since I'm full worksheet.
Okay, I didn't know, it's been there for a couple weeks, I didn't know if anybody had reported it, I figured I'd take this opportunity to do that. And my last thing is, I have a question about the McCleary Park project. I know that there, on the sheet that you sent out indicated however many million it was for the bulkheading. Does that include anything else, or is that just the bulkheading? Are we moving forward on the floating docks and anything else down in there in that area?
We have more marina work coming up, so we have the concrete docks, and the final dock work is going to happen over this, the fall and winter. What you saw in the mailer about the hazard mitigation project is really just the bulkheading.
Just the bulkheading, okay, but there is further, we are furthering the project to get the other repairs done. I just, aside from the fact that I'm a big proponent of FOBH, and that really killed me this summer to not have my daughter sailing down there, it's kind of, that area right there's kind of the gateway to Belmar. It's the first area that you see when you come into town, and it really looks horrible because nothing has been done down there. So I just, that's my other, you know, I have two things. It's aesthetics and it's sailing. So, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Gene. Last time I saw Gene, she was rocking out to Dr. Frank.
Yes, I was.
Yes, Brent.
Brendan Reed, 109th Avenue. First, I want to say, a year ago, we were in the process of unpacking our boxes and moving into our apartment. And I want to say that despite everything this community has gone through, with the little storm that took place at the end of October, this has got to be the best community we've ever lived in. We look forward to staying in our community, and I can't ask for, both on behalf of my wife, we can't ask for a wonderful group of people than what's in this town. And I want to thank you very much for making us feel welcome here. The second, I just have a couple questions. One, just wanted to find out, would it be possible with the passage of the ordinance to approach FEMA for funding of, say, other destroyed structures, such as for like a 13th Avenue gazebo that I mentioned earlier? Okay. So it would be possible, so it's not just locked in. Now, second thing, I wanted to, regarding the excellent SMRSA presentation earlier tonight, they raised a couple of issues on impermeability and roof runoff. I've been on the infrastructure committee of the community I last live in. We had a lot of serious discussion about this. And I want to know what type of efforts have been discussion made within Belmar and also with the other communities to address these issues. For example, how we can make the ground surface more permeable, having to deal with parking lot, dealing with runoff, so that we don't have the kind of flooding, or to offset the likely flooding that we're going to have for Silver Lake and Lake Como.
Well, if you remember our last council meeting, we introduced an ordinance that would change the zoning to allow a garage in front of the house. Previous to that, you always had to put it in the back. Well, to get to the back, you had to have a driveway that went to the back of the yard. So what this would do is promote people having more impervious lot coverage, having backyards, having grass, having places for families. So things like that we're looking at. Regarding other towns, it's frustrating. I mean, you can ask Walnut to build, tell you to go fly a kite. Same thing with Spring Lake Heights. They're the ones that go into, that really feed in, not so much us, and, because we're a very small part of the economy, very small part. Very little of our water goes into that lake. Spring Lake more, Lake Como more than us, but really, Walnut and Spring Heights are significant amount. Trying to get them to scale back their zoning, you can ask them, but that's about it.
It's not so much scaling back zoning. I've seen some seen developments. For example, Home Depot went in one community I lived in.